Well, now it is time for me to discuss my picks for week 2 of the NFL season. And I had a very strong first week of action. I picked out of the 16 games 11 correctly. So you should keep watching this show if you want to know what's going to happen in the National Football League. Now, that being said, I have not had so much luck on Thursday nights. I've picked both Thursday night games incorrectly so far this season. But any given Sunday, it's the Sundays that I will really try to master. Now, kicking things off on Sunday, part of the early game slate, the Tennessee Titans travel to take on the Detroit Lions. And, the Titans have a strong rush defense, but not so much on the pass defense. So, the Lions won last week against a tougher Indianapolis offense, and I think Haloti Ngata will help put the clamps on DeMarco Murray of Tennessee. So I like the Lions to get the home win in that one. Now, in the battle between the Chiefs and the Texans are certainly going to be highly motivated. They want revenge for last year's playoff loss. Plus, the Chiefs' defense is looking weaker than it was last year. And of course, on the opposite side of the defensive end, J.J. Watt is going to want to have a stronger output than he had in Week 1. And, the Texans are really going to run Lamar Miller, and I think Lamar Miller is going to have a lot of success on the ground this time around. So I'm taking the Texans to hold home court. In terms of the Dolphins versus the Pats, this has traditionally been an easy game to pick in the past, as Bill Belichick seems to really have Miami's number, and the AFC East division as a whole for that matter. But, Jimmy Garoppolo had a nice career opener against the overrated Arizona defense. And, it's going to be a tough matchup for Garoppolo because Ndamukong Suh, Cameron Wake, and Mario Williams could make his life a living hell. Really trying, especially if he tries to run the ball. LeGarrette Blount is not going to get much done on the ground. It is going to be a dink and dunk kind of a day for Bill Belichick, but he is the master of coming up with a game plan, especially in challenging matchups like this. Ryan Tannehill had a pretty good week 1, but I don't think he's going to have that much success in Foxborough, so give me the Pats in a close one. Now, Ravens at the Brownies. No one was really surprised to see Robert Griffin III go down injured. A lot of people would argue that Josh McCown's the better quarterback anyway. But man, McCown is getting up there in age. So, the Ravens won last week by pressuring Tyrod Taylor. They're going to obviously look to really put that pressure on McCown as well, who doesn't really have much mobility at all. And, the Browns have a very solid number 1 corner with Joe Hayden, but the Ravens, have a wealth of receiving options with, Steve Smith, although he's not at 100%, Kamar Aiken, and Breeland. So, I think that Flacco will get the ball going through the air, and so I'm going to take the Ravens to win this one on the road against what will soon to be prove a hapless Browns team. And in the matchup between Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown had a terrible head injury last year against the Bengals, if you'll recall. So Brown is going to be very motivated to come out and have a big game. I like him a lot. I think he's the best receiver in the NFL. And, obviously a terrific Week 1 performance from him. But, the Steelers, I think this will be a close game. Cincinnati's going to come out and play. A.J. Green could give the Pittsburgh secondary a lot of problems, although Andy Dalton is not the quarterback that Ben Roethlisberger is. So I'm taking Pittsburgh at home in a close one. Now, what used to be the best rivalry in the NFL will be in play tomorrow, as the Dallas Cowboys will travel to FedEx Field to take on the Washington Redskins. Dallas their quarterback Dak Prescott had a pretty solid NFL debut. Had almost 250 yards passing, no touchdowns, but also no interceptions. So, I don't see the Dallas getting much pressure on the Redskins. I think this is a great opportunity for Kirk Cousins to really earn that long-term contract he is seeking. And, the Cowboys' defense has just been ravaged by suspensions. Now, Ezekiel Elliott can make this game interesting by coming up with a nice rushing performance of his own. Very talented running back running behind one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in the NFL. But ultimately, it is the Redskins' passing attack that is going to win one. But also watch out to see what Matt Jones will do out there. Now, in terms of the New York Giants, coming off that Week 1 win, the G-Men now host the New Orleans Saints. So the Giants will play their home opener at MetLife Stadium. As many of you know, the Saints have a terrible defense. It's just going to have an atrocious season. And, Drew Brees had, or he led the way for the Saints to put up, 500 plus net yards last week. However, that was against the Oakland Raiders. I don't see that happening this time against a very stout Giants defense on the road. And I think Odell Beckham will have a big, big performance in this one. I like the Giants in this game, and I think they will win by a touchdown. Now, 49ers traveling to take on the Carolina Panthers. It is important for Cam Newton to get plenty of rest after the battering he took, all those dirty shots to the head. He's had 9 days to recover, so the Panthers have an advantage there, having a longer time to prepare for, the worst quarterback in the NFL. Blaine Gabbert is absolutely atrocious. I mean, he had one throw last week, I should say. Probably had some last year too, where it was so bad you just couldn't believe that he was a professional quarterback. So, with Cam having some time to recover, the Panthers coming out with extra, preparation. I like Carolina to go out and win on the road, traveling across the country. Now, the Bucks traveling to take on the Cardinals. This is a battle between what I believe to be the most underrated team in the NFL versus one of the most overrated. Jameis Winston is primed for another big week. He had 4 touchdown passes in Week 1, and it's Mike Evans is going to be one of the best receivers in the NFL. He's really worked on strengthening his game after having drop issues last season, and the Cardinals, that defense really got exposed against New England. Against a quarterback making his first NFL start. It could be a very disappointing year for the Cardinals if Carson Palmer doesn't get his act together. So I'm taking Tampa Bay to win what might be considered an upset. I don't think so, but Tampa Bay on the road. Seahawks traveling to take on the Rams. Seahawks are dealing with plenty of issues in the offensive line and at quarterback. Russell Wilson hurt his ankle in Week 1, stayed out there, but his mobility is limited, and Wilson is the type of quarterback who thrives on, his agility and his ability to create something out of nothing, but that ability could be hampered severely. That being said, the Rams are absolutely horrible. It's going to be a very long season for them, although they do have a very strong defensive line. I don't think Seattle's going to be able to run the ball much. So it's really the impetus is going to be on Doug Baldwin to have a big game himself. Russ Wilson's probably going to be more of a pocket passer in this one, but considering how terrible the Rams are, even playing at home, I'm going to pick Seattle to win this one. Now, Colts traveling to take on the Broncos. Trevor Siemian proved in his NFL debut that he can get the job done. The Broncos aren't going to ask all that much out of him. Considering that they have such a talented running back with C.J. Anderson, who exploded in Week 1, and the fact that they have, such an incredible defense, still have Von Miller and DeMarco Murray in the fold. I do believe that Andrew Luck is going to be under a lot of pressure in this one. The Colts are going to be playing catch-up because their defense is very weak, so I'm going to take the Broncos to win at home by at least a touchdown over the Colts. Now, Falcons traveling to take on the Raiders. Atlanta will be feeling like it's 10 a.m. We've seen traditionally that East Coast teams tend to struggle when they take on, West Coast teams. Well, I shouldn't say they'll feel like it's 10 a.m. because it'll be a late game out there. But, like I said, East Coast teams tend to struggle oftentimes. The Raiders are, quietly becoming one of the rising stars of the NFL thanks to Derek Carr. I'm a big fan of his. And, the Falcons might be channeling some red zone ineptitude. I think that between the 20s, Matt Ryan will be able to move the ball. But Atlanta's going to settle for too many field goals. Derek Carr and Amari Cooper are going to link up big time. So I'm going to take the Raiders to come out on top on Sunday. Now for the Jaguars traveling to take on the Chargers, Jacksonville fans probably licking their lips at this matchup, considering that San Diego star wide receiver Keenan Allen suffered a devastating torn ACL in Week 1. His season's now over, but don't get too excited, Jacksonville, because the Jaguars corners, Prince Amukamara and Jalen Ramsey, are both nursing injuries. They're going to play, but they're going to play hurt, not at 100%. So I don't think that this young Jacksonville team is ready to go out and pick up a win on the road yet. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this game. Now for the Sunday night matchup, Packers traveling to take on the Vikings. Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer has said that he will not announce the starter until Sunday, but considering how horribly wrong that game went for Sean Hill, the aging veteran, you'd have to think that if Sam Bradford had at least a rudimentary understanding of the playbook, that he will be ready to go for the Vikings. After all, they gave up a first-round pick for him. The Vikings are going to feel pressure now because they're playing in their new stadium. I do think that Linval Joseph will play a big role in helping slow down Eddie Lacy. However, Aaron Rodgers was not happy with his Week 1 performance. He could have certainly done better against Jacksonville. I think he's going to bounce back and have a much better showing. He's got his weapons with Randall Cobb, Jordy Nelson, and so forth. I'm taking the Packers to win once again on the road. Now, for the Eagles and Bears, this will be new territory for Philadelphia rookie quarterback Carson Wentz. Eagles fans are over the moon with him right now because he had such a strong performance in his NFL debut. But you have to remember, it was not that tough of a matchup. They were playing the Browns. This is where you find out what he's really made of. Traveling on the road, facing a tough Bears defense that includes great linebackers like Jarrell Freeman, Danny Trevathan. They're going to make life difficult for Wentz. And so I count that on top of the fact that Zach Ertz is going to be out. It could be a real challenge for Carson Wentz. I think Cutler has a big game, as will Alshon Jeffrey. Give me Chicago on Monday night, winning at home over the Philadelphia Eagles. So with that, I leave you with my Week 2 NFL picks.